What happens when a single 21-year-old athlete completely holds the entire economy of a 149-year-old sporting institution hostage, only for the entire marketplace to instantly crash the exact second she steps off the court? We are currently witnessing an absolute, unprecedented financial and cultural shockwave ripping through the traditional tennis establishment. And the sheer magnitude of what just occurred in southwest London has left tournament accountants completely terrified. The media is desperately trying to frame the conclusion of the grass court season as a standard tournament exit. But behind the scenes, viral reports and frantic marketplace screenshots tell a drastically different, highly controversial story. Rumors are exploding across social platforms that immediately following Alex Eala's heartbreaking departure from the tournament, center court resale ticket prices suffered a catastrophic, near-instantaneous collapse, plummeting down to the shocking price of a basic London sandwich. The seats that millions of fans were aggressively fighting to secure just hours prior suddenly transformed into an absolute ghost town that nobody in the local market wanted to touch. You are locked into WTA PRO, the undisputed authority on the raw, unvarnished truth behind the biggest power shifts, locker room secrets, and financial cover-ups in professional tennis. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the like, and let's dive directly into the incredible corporate panic currently surrounding the meteoric, history-altering rise of Alex Eala. To truly comprehend the terrifying velocity of this market collapse, you have to look directly at the absolute masterpiece Eala executed on the sacred grass just days before the corporate panic set in. On July 4, 2026, Eala stepped onto center court to face the ultimate test, the defending Wimbledon champion and world number 3, Iga Swiatek. The tennis elite expected a routine, predictable demolition by the multi-time major winner, but what they witnessed instead was a complete, clinical dismantling. Eala pushed the opening set into a brutal, high-pressure 18-point tiebreak, refusing to flinch under the weight of Swiatek's legendary baseline defense. After capturing that grueling opening set, she completely unlocked an elite level of aggressive tennis, steamrolling through the second set 6-2 to the absolute loudest, most passionate ovation the tournament had delivered all fortnight. The tournament's official social channels rushed to post the highlight reel, instantly accumulating tens of thousands of frantic engagements, proving to the entire world that this was not a lucky underdog story or a temporary fluke. Eala had just systematically erased the defending champion from the draw on the sport's most sacred lawn, proving to every corporate executive in the room that she belonged at the absolute pinnacle of the sport. But the sheer intensity required to execute a historic Grand Slam ambush inevitably demands an immense, deeply exhausting physical toll. Just 48 hours later, Eala marched back out onto the grass for a high-stakes round of 16 clash against the formidable 13th seed and previous year's finalist, Jasmine Paolini. But before a single ball was even struck, sharp-eyed analysts immediately noticed a glaring, deeply concerning detail. Thick, preventive medical tape was wrapped tightly around Eala's left forearm. That tape was the absolute first visible sign that the exhausting back-to-back schedule was beginning to cause severe structural strain on her young frame. Despite fighting with an absolute relentless competitive fury, leading comfortably in the second set and forcing the match into a deciding third, the physical limitations ultimately caught up to her. Paolini walked away with a hard-fought 6-4, 4-6, 6-3 victory. There was no controversy, no dramatic villain in pristine tennis whites, and no officiating scandal. The true, unprecedented drama was quietly waiting to explode just 1 hour later in the global ticket marketplace outside the stadium gates. The immediate aftermath of that final ball triggered an absolute, unprecedented commercial crisis that the sport's governing bodies were completely unprepared to handle. Within hours of Eala's exit, viral reports and verified screenshots began circulating across digital platforms showing center court resale tickets, appearing at values so low they looked like literal formatting typos. Rumors claimed that seats for the subsequent sessions were changing hands for a shocking $9 to $15, a price point lower than the iconic strawberries and cream sold inside the prestigious venue. Neither the tour officials nor the tournament committee released a single public statement, because they didn't have to. The brutal reality of the secondary market did all the talking. The shocking pattern exposed a reality the tennis establishment has been desperately trying to ignore for years. The entire tournament economy had accidentally, completely tied its daily financial demand curve to the survival of a single 21-year-old athlete from Manila. The absolute moment her run ended, the massive wave of global consumer enthusiasm instantly vanished, leaving the stadium facing a terrifying reality where the seats were technically worth less than the paper they were printed on. To bring absolute clarity to this developing controversy, we have to look closely at the institutional systems that make the story so incredibly sharp. The venue has long operated a dedicated, highly philanthropic charity resale kiosk behind number 1 court, where return tickets are legally resold for £15, with every single dollar funneled directly into community foundations. Therefore, the low price point itself wasn't the fundamental shock to the system. The true, unprecedented crisis was the absolute velocity of the consumer abandonment. The secondary market completely confirmed what hardcore tennis analysts had been shouting from the rooftops. The massive, historic audience driving the tournament's digital engagement wasn't checking in to watch the prestige of the grass. They were checking in exclusively to witness the history-altering ascension of Alex Eala. While the local resale market for her physical seat was experiencing an artificial cratering, Eala herself walked away with a massive $300,000 prize check, a career-high projected ranking of world number 28, and an absolutely skyrocketing commercial valuation that is currently multiplying by the hour. This dramatic, highly volatile market shift represents the ultimate validation for the global fan base that recognized her historic potential long before the mainstream media caught up. Every single dedicated supporter across the massive global diaspora, stretching from Manila and Dubai to California and Toronto, who stayed up past midnight to hijack streaming platforms and follow her progress, just received absolute confirmation of their massive influence. You were not being overly sentimental. You were actively driving the primary economic demand curve of a Grand Slam tournament, leaving the corporate accountants completely scrambling to adjust their financial models. Historically, whenever a dynamic powerhouse from an underrepresented tennis nation catches absolute fire at a major, the entire local marketplace moves violently in their direction. We witnessed this exact phenomenon during the historic 2021 run of Emma Raducanu, which quadrupled television viewership overnight, and again with Leylah Fernandez completely selling out stadium sessions. Eala did not break the traditional economic model of modern tennis. She completely, undeniably mastered it. The absolute most definitive validation of her long-term elite status did not come from the volatile ticket markets, but from the legendary commentary booth overlooking the sacred grass. Tennis icon Martina Navratilova, a Hall of Famer who captured an astonishing 9 singles titles on that exact surface, watched Eala's round of 16 battle live on air with absolute, analytical precision. In broadcast recaps circulating across major tennis forums, Navratilova explicitly isolated Eala's serve as the primary technical area requiring immediate, aggressive refinement, while simultaneously delivering massive praise for her ferocious competitive intensity. In the highly critical vocabulary of a multi-time Grand Slam legend, pointing out a single fixable technical flaw in a 21-year-old who just obliterated the world number 1 is the absolute highest form of validation. Navratilova didn't treat her exit as a permanent ceiling. She diagnosed her performance with the precise, high-level scrutiny reserved exclusively for athletes she knows will be dominating the final weekends of major tournaments for the next decade. The structural reality of this ticket controversy points directly at a massive, systemic shift the professional tour has been desperately pretending not to notice for generations. Tennis's next great global commercial juggernaut is no longer going to emerge from a traditional Central European academy or a highly polished Florida training facility. It is emerging directly from Southeast Asia, where a massive, hyper-engaged population of over 100 million people just watched one of their own capture absolute glory on the sport's grandest stage. Look at the high-stakes 90-day calendar looming directly ahead. The grueling North American hard-court swing is set to ignite in early August with the Canadian Open in Montreal, followed immediately by the high-stakes Masters in Cincinnati, culminating in the final Grand Slam of the year in New York. Eala's historic projected ranking of world number 28 means she will enter the U.S. Open draw as the first-ever seeded female athlete in Philippine history. Every single tournament director on the North American circuit is already frantically redoing their session ticket projections, and every major apparel executive who witnessed her global audience hijack the digital grid is completely rewriting their multimillion-dollar endorsement models. When Eala finally stepped up to the microphone to address her devastating exit, she did so without a single hint of hesitation or excuse. She openly admitted that her serve was simply not performing at the elite level required to survive the round of 16, calmly stating that every professional athlete experiences days when their peak form fails to show up, and emphasizing that the only element within her absolute control is how she approaches the very next training session. Her mature, highly disciplined response perfectly matched the prophetic message she had shared with her followers right after her historic triumph over Swiatek. She wrote that you do not have to capture the trophy every single week to deeply inspire the next generation, that immense pressure ultimately creates incredibly strong people, and that the absolute toughest heartbreaks are designed to shape the greatest career comebacks in sports history. When read in sequence, the text reads less like a standard social media caption and more like a calculated, deeply personal note she left for her future self to prepare for the heavy burdens of global stardom. The $9 ticket rumor, the massive prize money check, the legendary validation from Martina Navratilova, and the profound quotes preserved by international news wires all point to one definitive conclusion. The tournament infrastructure did not experience a crisis because Alex Eala lost a tennis match. The crisis occurred because for one historic week, she made a traditional, rigid sporting institution worth vastly more than it had ever asked to be worth on its own. The global sports marketplace did not witness a permanent collapse. It witnessed an authentic, undeniable valuation of her massive cultural leverage. Now, the absolute ultimate question worth arguing over down in the comments section. Should the Grand Slam committees be doing significantly more to protect the market demands surrounding elite players who single-handedly move global markets? Or does the raw reality of this ticket panic prove that Alex Eala has already completely outgrown the very tournaments that host her? Drop your absolute most aggressive, raw predictions below. Where exactly does Eala finish her high-stakes run at the US Open in August? And will she leave New York permanently cemented inside the world's top 20? Smash that subscribe button, hit the like, and settle the debate with the rest of the community before the official draw drops. The cold, hard receipts will be waiting.